Okay, Mr. Framer, but to tell you the truth...
They should just show it and be second.
Dos raciones de pura carne.
Initiating data download.
At Merrill Lynch, we're still bullish.
Analyzing data.
From Wall Street to the world.
Well, when I got hurt and missed work, thought I had supplemental insurance.
Supplemental insurance? What's that?
Aflac.
Well, even the best insurance doesn't give you cash to cover things like lost pay, other expenses. This does.
What does?
Aflac.
Shouldn't ask about it at work.
Really? And what's it called?
Aflac!
Aflac. Without it, no insurance is complete.
Aflac.
Everyone knows what it's like to be congested, but now there's a new...
Latest Kleenex cotton.
So far as Chuck Rhodes trying to dance.
You know, he's shaking a mean boogie out there, I'm telling you. We're going, what is it, a little after 1? He's still moving it.
Looking
We're having
good.
a great time. Happy New Year, Rick.
Happy New Year, Val. Alicia Richards is live in York, where a white rose ushered in the year 2000. Hi, Alicia.
That was quite a crack on Chuck there, Rick.
Don't dance.
He deserves it, don't worry. You know, it's a difference what an hour makes. We're the only ones out here pretty much now, except for city workers cleaning up the mess, and there are a few police officers left over as well. I tell you, we have a little bit of news here. In the 200 block of South Duke Street, a little bit earlier this evening, someone used a pipe, severely beat a man up. He was rushed by ambulance to the hospital. We do not know his condition at this hour. Otherwise, this was a festive night in downtown York. Let's take a look at the video, Rick. As you said, the White Rose, 20 seconds before midnight. The
child born unwittingly into
Blair and put on a big show in Washington, D.C. Let's go.
Midnight.
O'Donnell at the White House. Nora, how did we compare to London?
Pretty well. Happy New Year, John.
Happy New Year, Nora.
The celebration here at the White House continues into the evening. All of the guests that President Clinton and First Lady Hillary Clinton had on the Washington Mall will come back here to the White House, partying late until the evening. In fact, they're going to stick around for breakfast. There'll be entertainment here, so the party continues. But just hours ago, President Clinton ushered in the new year down at the Washington Mall with a grand Millennium Gala, and he evoked the words in a speech to the nation of Abraham Lincoln, the great emancipator. President Clinton saying that, in fact, we should have a new birth of freedom.
We Americans must not fear change. Instead, let us welcome it, embrace it, and create it. If the story of the 20th century is the triumph of freedom, what will the story of the 21st century be? Let it be the triumph of freedom wisely used. It will require us to share with our fellow Americans and increasingly with our fellow citizens of the world the economic benefits of globalization, the political benefits of democracy.
The president calling on America for a new birth of freedom, to end bigotry, end hatred, to open the gates to a new millennium, for a new America, to end a lot of the hatred that has been part of the last century. President Clinton said earlier today. So he's coming back here to the White House, where again he'll party most of the night with many of the celebrities that were here earlier for dinner, including Sophia Loren, Muhammad Ali, Jack Nicholson, and his date, Laura Flynn Boyle. So all of them headed back here to the White House for a grand celebration. As I said, John, it's going all night long. John?
Well, I imagine that it's going to take a while, Nora, for the president to greet all of those celebrities with such a crowd there. So I hope you get in on some of the fun. Nora O'Donnell at the White House, thanks a lot. Maybe we'll talk to you a little bit later. Meanwhile, NBC News correspondent Pat Dawson is in New York in the World Trade Center, keeping an eye on how it
wouldn't be available for flight planning
in the aftermath of the big Millennium Blast. Pat?
John, I can tell you essentially everything is working as it's supposed to. As a matter of fact, everything is working as well in the year 2000, as far as we know, as it was in the year 1999. In the city of New York, Well, the first issue for them, obviously, at midnight tonight was to check out their 6 primary computer systems, running things like the 911 system, EMS, fire department, the water department. All of those are working exactly as they are supposed to work, which is no surprise. They've run some tests before, and they've spent roughly $300 million on when they showed their computer systems. They will continue through the weekend checking the rest of the city's systems out. Otherwise, it has been, as you have no doubt heard, a very, very quiet night in New York. No significant crime to speak of, over and above what might normally be seen in a city of 7 million people. Obviously, there were no major incidents, at least not to this point. So far, the police report that everything is as they had hoped it would be, a relatively quiet night despite all the noise in Times Square. So far, really nothing negative to report at all. A very, very quiet night down here, and that's exactly what they were hoping for. John?
Pat Dawson, keeping an eye on events in New York. Pat, thanks very much. Hope to talk to you a little bit later. This is MSNBC's continuing coverage of the millennium. I'm here for a while. We're going to take a break. Be right back.
Graduate, I don't have any PhDs or BHDs.
Now that's amazing.
So far, all of the calls have been...
Oh,
definitely.
Le millénaire des Lumières, où on trouve all the music of your favorite artist.
¿Tú crees que te está viendo?
Sí, imagino que sí.
Bueno, saludos, mami, saludos a todo México, todo Puerto Rico, todos los que ya celebraron el año 2000. Nosotros ya lo hicimos aquí, ya todo está llegando en calma. Casi no quepo aquí de la cantidad de gente. Me están pisando hasta el cable, pero si no, cuidado, señores, que estoy hablando aquí al cable. Muchísima gente. Aquí, la ciudad aquí en el Navy Pier esperaba 60,000 personas y yo creo que hay muchas más. La seguridad ha sido bastante fuerte y se ha notado, pero yo creo que ya no hay control, ya está la gente por todas partes. Nosotros nos encontramos a las orillas del lago Michigan, donde más frío no puede hacer, pero aquí contentos y mandándoles todo el calor humano que tenemos aquí.
Mexican singer Juan Gabriel, he is one of the foremost Mexican artists who sing mariachi music, which is the most traditional way of celebrating any big party here. That concert is going to start in a few minutes now, and the party here surely will last at least for another 3 or 4 hours. Back to you.
Harris Whitbeck filling us in on, excuse me, Bernie, I was just munching a cookie. I was sneaking a bite. We're not supposed to sneak cookies on television. Some spectacular fireworks, and now we know the secret to a successful celebration in Mexico. As he said, they were all wearing red underwear.
Well,
he thinks.
He reported that. And we're going to pause for a moment, and as we leave you during this segment, this was the Millennium in Acapulco, to the south and on the Pacific coast of Mexico.
America prepares for the first election of the new millennium. The faces, issues, and ideas that will change the American political landscape and the balance of power. Only one network will provide the depth of programming, covering the live breaking story with the most experienced team of journalists ever assembled on television and online. America's campaign headquarters for Election 2000 is CNN. Coming soon to video.
Or me.
On the couch watching the festival coverage on this NBC station, also on MSNBC of the Millennium 2000. So far, it's worth repeating. Everything has gone off extremely well, not just here, but around the world. No Y2 glitches worth talking about. All the nuclear security seems to be in place in Russia and the United States. Airlines are flying safely tonight. No incidents whatsoever here at Times Square. Not even really any rowdy arrests. I mean, there were one or two, but when you have 2 million people, not many at all. We'll be back after this. We're back once again, and what we've been doing here at NBC News is asking a lot of distinguished Americans to reflect on the 20th century, on people, on issues, on developments and inventions, to tell us what they think were the most important of all of those. We share some of them with you now.
A date which will live in infamy. I have a dream.
I think the biggest news event of the 20th century was the detonation of the atomic bomb in Hiroshima. It was a tremendous, iconic symbol of fear and power at the same time.
That was the creation of a new weapon that was capable of destroying our planet as we know it.
We knew you could do it, Lindy. We knew you could do it.
I would say the most important news story of the 20th century was probably Lindbergh crossing the Atlantic, because I think it's imperative that you view the act in its time and in the context of its time, not in hindsight, because of the ramifications that it had for the world.
The biggest news event didn't get the most news coverage. It was the 54th Supreme Court decision. Because without the 54th Supreme Court decision, America as a divided country was legal. When the Supreme Court decision was rendered that segregation was illegal, that set a new framework for America.
I think probably Sir Alexander Fleming's invention of penicillin, because that increased our life expectancy of about 48 or 49 years at the beginning of this century, up to close to 80 now.
I think the most important invention of the 20th century was probably the airplane by the Wright brothers. This opened up a panacea of travel and movement around the world and relationships among people.
I'd have to say the most important invention in the end was the internet. In our process of globalization, I think it's going to really make this one planet, and it's going to break down a lot of geographic barriers.
To me, the most influential person of the 20th century isn't a person at all. He's a snuffleupagus.
Oh, bird. Personally, I'd say my parents, because they, conceived me.
It's really tough, but I guess I'm gonna go Ali, Muhammad Ali. Besides being, a great athlete, I think he opened a lot of people's minds.
Muhammad Ali, to me personally, because he was a man who overcame and believed and wouldn't allow anything to get in the way of his beliefs.
Muhammad means worthy of all praises, and Ali means most high. Cassius Clay was my slave name. I'm no longer a slave.
I think he sort of redefined the possibility of an African American in our culture becoming a leader, respected for intelligence, wit, and what charisma.
Jesus said there are two roads in life.
This won't surprise a lot of people that I think Billy Graham is the greatest person in our century. He's lived a life and traveled the world,
lifting people's spirits, sights, motivation. He's lived the life he preaches.
I can tell you who I think is one of the most compelling figures of the century was Harry Truman, who's just a personal hero of mine.
The future of civilization depends on what we do now, and in the months ahead.
What I loved about him was he was a man of very little education in an incredibly difficult job, making some of the trickiest decisions of the century. And was just a little guy.
I think that the most influential person in the world was the GI, especially the combat soldier of World War II, that really and truly did save the world.
Eyewitness News 21 at 11.
Roger Moore exposes.
We're back. It's 1:30 in the east now. That means that we're closing in on midnight in the mountain time zone in this country, so we're going to be marking that as we go along tonight as well. There have been so many memorable quotes during the 20th century. Adlai Stevenson, who had a great eye for the insightful but at the same time amusing line, said about editors in America, he said, the editor is someone who separates the wheat from the chaff and then prints the chaff. Well, we have an editor tonight in Len Cannon who's taking a look at the...
Believe jive came only weeks after...
¿Crees tú que han llegado aquí al Zócalo?
Bueno, se calcula, Enrique, que han llegado aproximadamente unas 300,000 personas y te quiero decir que se calcula que el cupo ideal de esta Plaza de la Constitución es de 100,000, entonces imagínate, hay muy poco espacio para moverse, pero hay un gran calor humano esta noche aquí en la Plaza de la Constitución de México. Y quiero decirte algo que es muy importante, el saldo ha sido blanco, no hay incidentes que lamentar hasta el momento aquí en la capital mexicana, Enrique.
Tú no te imaginas la satisfacción, la alegría que tienen todos los mexicanos y todos los latinoamericanos.
Everything was really smooth. The district police, the park police, all of those involved in managing this very huge operation managed to get through without any serious incidents, and everyone seemed to be very happy. And as I said, now it's relatively, there's only a few people who are left here. It's amazing how tens of thousands, perhaps hundreds of thousands of people, Bernie and Judy, can come to an area like this, but within a matter of minutes, they've dispersed, they've gone home or wherever they were going, but they're certainly not here anymore. Bernie, Judy?
Wolf, just one question about President Clinton's remarks. You've covered this man for most of his presidency. Up until very recently. Any thoughts, observations about what he had to say in the few minutes before midnight?
He was speaking for himself. He thought a lot about the 6.5 minutes that he spoke about. The First Lady was intimately involved in preparing all of these Millennium operations over the past year and a half. This was not just an overnight wonder, what occurred here. The President is now about to enter his last year in office. He's getting rather nostalgic by all accounts. He wants to now, the first year of this new millennium, this new century, squeeze as much as he possibly can in the remaining 1 year of his own presidency. He's going to be doing a lot. He's going to be very active. And I think some of that activity, some of the objectives that he wants to achieve in the coming year were reflected in the brief remarks just before midnight here at the Lincoln Memorial.
All right, Wolf Blitzer reporting from the mall in Washington, D.C., where the celebration was big. It was spectacular. And as you see, it's starting to clear out now, but the likes of which Washington won't see for quite some time. We're going to take a break. We're coming up on 27 minutes before 2 o'clock Eastern Time, but 27 minutes until the Mountain Time Zone and parts of Canada observe the new millennium. We'll be right back.
In
Moscow's Red Square, a spectacle of fireworks pierced the frost and snow of night, setting the Kremlin ablaze. The night's display capping an explosive news day in Russia, the sudden resignation of President Boris Yeltsin. And then, one by one, the clocks on the towers and rooftops all throughout Western Europe struck 12. The towering columns of Acropolis, a building older than 2 millenniums, were shrouded in white mist. In the Vatican, Pope John Paul II celebrated a moment very important to Christians around the world and to him personally, as he peered over the crowds to bless them on the eve of the 3rd millennium. In his address, he said believers have a reason to be thankful, but also reasons to ask for forgiveness. Two million people huddled together under Berlin's Brandenburg Gate, a symbol of a city that was once torn apart and is now reunited. But perhaps the biggest party in the world, and this may not come as a surprise, was in Paris. The Eiffel Tower, the center of the City of Lights, turned into a beacon of light, sending thunderbolts of fireworks 8 miles into the cold Paris night. In London, Queen Elizabeth lit a torch marking the beginning of celebrations over the River Thames. England welcomed the new century with a giant Ferris wheel and a sky full of pyrotechnics. Thousands of guests, including Britain's Prime Minister and the Queen, gathered in the new Millennium Dome to say farewell to the parting century with the Beatles' All You Need Is Love. As 40,000 fireworks set London skies on fire, across the Atlantic, in the New World, the sun was just setting on the last day of this millennium, making way to midnight and the upcoming New Year's celebrations.
We'll be back right after this.
My driving test kind of got off to a bad start.
I want to talk a while.
A lot of new jobs. And also a lot of problems. More traffic, more people, higher rents. Every gold rush has its downside.
And Judy Muller, of course, you cover California for us. The changing face of California is one of the great definitive marks of the end of the century and the advent of the new one.
That's right, and one of the themes they're celebrating here tonight is diversity. California in the last decade or so has really seen an incredible change. Somewhere in the 80s, whites no longer were a majority in California. A lot of Asians, a lot of Latinos moving into California and becoming very powerful voting blocs politically. And there's been a lot of resistance to that as well. We've seen some ballot measures over the last few years, anti-immigration, anti-bilingual, that sort of thing, that's really reflecting the strains on the population.
I must say it does seem very surprisingly calm behind you, though.
It has been calm, and I was listening to Connie say Las Vegas didn't see the kinds of crowds they were expecting, and I think that's true here as well. They were expecting 15,000 people here in the square, and I would guess it's maybe a few thousand, not anything like they were predicting. Perhaps people were a little fearful. Last year in Union Square, they had a lot of trouble, a lot of vandals. It was not a spiritual experience at all. It was just revelry. Yeah, and windows were broken. Some of the stores here have boarded up their windows as though they were expecting some of the same thing.
It's interesting because it seems so inconsistent with the mood that we found elsewhere in the world. We'll come back and celebrate your midnight with you not too long from now. Thanks, Judy Muller. Our coverage will continue in just a moment.
ABC 2000 will continue live from around the world in just a moment.
Who is it?
It's me, Influenza.
Me that he would never love me.
Coming in.
Rage Against the Machine, taking that sort of vital.
No.
Entonces dígale algo, dígale todo lo que quiere decir. Aprovecha que estamos en una celebración tan importante como esta para que le digas a tu papá lo que tú quieras decirle.
Lo quiero. Felicidades.
¿Cómo me dijiste que se llama tu papá?
Danilo.
¿Danilo? Él quiere conocer a su papá, a Danilo Velázquez. ha venido hoy día solito aquí a celebrar el nuevo año y seguramente dentro de sus deseos y de sus resoluciones está conocer a su papá. Y a lo mejor...
We're going to go to a state that's neighboring California, Nevada, Las Vegas, our own Lauren Sidney. Lauren, what's going on?
Well, Judy, we don't have a sign here in Vegas, but boy, do we have a strip. We are having our own party here at the Sky at the beautiful Four Seasons Hotel that's 35 floors below me. One of the hottest tickets in town is the divine Miss Midler's Millennium New Year's Eve concert. Concert goers are now inside the Mandalay Bay Hotel below us, celebrating with her. I caught up with the diva Las Vegas last night as she rehearsed for tonight's big gig.
But at CNN, of course, we do not believe in rumors. We've come to you for the truth.
Oh, I have no truth. I have nothing to offer. I'm terrified. But it's okay. I'm going forward. I had a great life. I hope everybody that's listening had a good one, too. Goodbye.
Hello. Hello. Because the rumors that are going around about you is that come the millennium...
Oh, the rumors about me. Oh, I see.
But they're clean ones. Come the millennium, Bette Midler will no longer do a raunchy show.
That's
true or false?
That is absolutely true. That's absolutely true. I'm changing. I'm changing. I'm just going to sing ballads, and I'm going to only work with one piano player, and and maybe I'll open up a club of my own. That's what I'm thinking.
But that's the future.
This children.
That's then. This is now. So how raunchy are you going to get?
Well, it's going to be pretty silly. I'm not so sure it's going to be so raunchy, but it's going to be a lot of fun. We have all sorts of things planned for this event. We have stuff. We have lots and lots of stuff and lots of really silly jokes, and I think the crowd's going to be great. I think they're going to be sloshed, and I think they're going to be out for a really good time, and I'm really looking forward to it. This is a beautiful arena, the Mandalay Bay Arena, just a beautiful arena, and the sound is going to be fantastic, and I'm just going to have a ball. Now, I'm looking forward to it. We've been on the road for 3 months. We've been preparing for this night, so we're like, we're keyed. We're ready to go.
With all the fun that's going around, we know that there is fear that is gripping some people in this nation. What are your feelings about it?
Oh, I think they should be very frightened, but not in this arena, because they're going to have fun here. You know, I don't know. I really don't know. I think a lot of it is hype. I think a lot of it is the media. You know, I mean, I don't think people are out there spreading these rumors by themselves. They've had a lot of help in the press, and I think a lot of retailers are really mad, and I know that people here in Las Vegas are really mad too. And I think it's going to be just like every other New Year's. It's going to be a great time for people who know how to have a good time, and I don't think anything's going to happen. I really don't.
So everyone will be safe and sound to see your next 2 movies.
Who cares? They don't come anyway. My friend is freaking out. Everyone should be safe and sound because the human beings have so much potential for such good things. And I think this new millennium, I hope some people will wake up, you know, on January 1st and say, I am going to be different. I'm going to look at humanity in a different way. I'm going to try my best. I'm going to do my part. Even if it's a tiny piece, I'm going to do my part, and that's really what I'm hoping for. And I think a lot of people are taking it quite seriously in a spiritual way, because it's a chance for people to assess what they have done, what they have become, and what they can do. And I think I in my own demented little way, I believe that that's what's going to happen.
And that you've done more than your part, and thank you for that.
Why, thank you. Thank you.
I also asked Bette what song she was going to perform at midnight, and the divine Miss M declined comment. But a little later in the new century, we will all hear Midler's Millennium Moment as CNN brings you her performance from the stage to your home. Now it's time to go back to Bernie and Judy's home in Atlanta, and I'm running out of offerings here. I do have this, as annoying as it might be. What do you think? Should I send it?
Go ahead, do it. Let it go.
Okay. All right, live a little.
All right, it's just the sound people who said don't do it. Lauren Sidney, thank you. No, we'll let you try anything. You'll never run out of offerings, and I have to say, Bette Midler, what a remarkable performer, and what modesty from her, what thoughtfulness. We're going to take a break, much more coming up.
CNN's global coverage of Millennium 2000 is brought to you by Aflac. Without it, no insurance is complete.
Well, when I got hurt and missed work, glad I had supplemental insurance.
Supplemental insurance? What's that?
Aflac. Well, even best insurance doesn't give you cash to cover things like lost pay, other expenses. This does.
What does?
Aflac. Shouldn't ask about it at work.
Really? What's it called?
Aflac!
Aflac. Without it, no insurance is complete.
Aflac!
Coming soon to video, CNN Millennium 2000. Incredible moments from the worldwide celebration. This exclusive CNN video features CNN's unparalleled round-the-clock and round-the-globe live coverage.
Smiling at you when you were still together. You could be walking down the street, you shook your chest to me, but that same old smile you've been thinking of all day. Yeah. Why don't we turn the clock to zero, honey? I'll never stop to spend the money. We're starting up a brand new day. Turn
did. It was just smaller. There was a parade to kick things off. There was the countdown at midnight. And then, of course, there were the fireworks. Lots of enthusiasm, as there was all over the world. Not a glitch that we could see. Haven't checked with their ATM machines or any of their computers, but so far we haven't heard anyone complaining about not being able to get to their money. They had country western music. They had blues music. They had gospel music. And they had families. That's what they said they wanted this to be about, that this was a small town, and that they wanted it to be a family affair. The question we got most often was, why Granbury? Well, the fact of the matter is, small town America is where everyone in some way or another has their roots, and we